First of all, this was an encounter involving two teams which were looking for their first win of the season. Uh, Delhi, as we know, has been doing very well in the last couple of seasons. Mumbai finished last year, and so if you look at the backdrop, against which these two teams faced each other, it was like it could have been anybody's game. And the way the game unfolded, Delhi at one stage started off well. But thereafter, of course, it's a very familiar sight of Delhi losing wickets in a heap. And then there was another point where, you know, Delhi has been struggling for two major reasons. Their top order hasn't clicked. David Warner, poor fellow, his role is to just watch there and watch wickets fall and the batsmen follow in a precision. That has been happening far too often. I mean, practically every game you see, here is this guy who just tries to play the anchor role, doesn't get, he wants to bat out, I think, 20 overs. He wants the team to support him from the other end, which is not quite happening because Prithvi Shaw is not playing his part. I mean, despite the fact that the coach has so much faith in his abilities, and this guy somehow hasn't been able to get into the act. So when the top order is not doing well, and Warner is there again, the same thing happened. He stood his ground. He played his part, but from the other end, wickets kept falling. And but thereafter, again, another very very familiar sight of Warner being part of a partnership which was actually trying to retrieve the fate of this particular team. They tried to resurrect both Akshar and Warner, two left-handers came together, put on those 67 runs in quick time. But again, losing those 5 wickets in the space of 7 runs, which was quite suicidal. So again, 172 was grossly inadequate. Where on one side of the wicket, if you look at the square side, at least on one side, it was just about 60 meters. On the other side, it was 70. So when you have a dimension of 60, 70, and if you have just 172 on the board, that is not enough because a lot of balls are going to land over there because batsmen are going to target the shorter fence. So that is exactly what happened. A good number of sixes were hit there. And especially if you are chasing a target of 772, you got to be very, very particular that in the first 6 overs you had to come good. And MI did exactly that. For them, the biggest takeaway was the return to form of their skipper. The way he bats and as only he can. We actually saw how he dominated the DC, the first few guys, and especially the way Ishan also supported him. So together they just raced away with that first 70 runs in no time. Thereafter, they should have finished the match. They didn't. They just dragged it on and on and on. And eventually, it was not because of good bowling from like BC. It was just that the somehow MI didn't quite finish it the way everybody expects them to. But at the same time, let's not forget they're also struggling for form. So the way they batted, and I mean, taking the match to the last over didn't make any sense. But then that's the way it happened. And one thing about Ishan was looking good. I think the way he sacrificed his wicket for his captain, we have already seen it once in the past as well. Because every time, I mean, a junior has to sacrifice his wicket because his senior partner or his captain decides to take a run. I mean, you always feel sorry for the guy who has to do this just because it is not his fault. It is because he, being the junior, is expected to sacrifice. And that's exactly what Ishan did. But overall, when you look at performances looking forward, I think both these teams are going to struggle. Delhi, because its batsmen are not doing anything so far. I mean, 4 matches, and they've almost lost all 4 matches one-sided, including this one. Although it looks like last wicket, last ball, 6 wickets to spare, and so on and so forth. But they were dominated. They didn't have a say in the match. They never looked like the team which was going to go across the line. So Delhi is struggling because its batsmen are not doing well, and Bombay, I've maintained it from day one that this particular team has the weakest bowling attack. It tried seven bowlers today, 7 bowling options, but trust me, this attack is not going to win them this year's IPL.